Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. We continue with our study of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And let's continue. Start off with the intentions for seeking knowledge and teaching. I intend to seek knowledge and to teach, to benefit myself and to benefit others, to remind myself and to remind others, to profit myself and to profit others, to urge adherence to the book of Allah and the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to invite to guidance and to guide to that which is good, seeking the face of Allah, His pleasure, His closeness, and His reward, subhanahu wa ta'ala. We continue on with our Fatiha. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم نور بالقرآن بصري واشرح به صدري وأطلق به لساني واستعمل به بدني وقوي به جناني وأسرع به فهمي بحولك وقوتك فإنه لا حول ولا قوة إلا بك يا أرحم الراحمين والصلاة على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين بفضل سبحانك ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله الحمد لله الحمد لله الحمد لله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. We continue with our Surah Jathiah. All right, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We did verses 1 to 4 in the last lesson. The surah begins with the huruf muqatta'at, and we had some discussion on the huruf muqatta'at, the ha and the mim. As mentioned, all these things are suggestions by ulama, by scholars, their opinions, right? And we just take note of it, and it might help us in some sense, inshallah. All right, this book is a revelation from Allah, the Mighty, the Wise. So we do note that most of the surahs which begin with huruf muqatta'at means cut off letters. That means they start off with letters like alif, lam, mim, ha, mim, yasin. This is called huruf muqatta'at. And they always refer to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This book we do understand means the Quran. It's a revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah identifies two of His attributes, the mighty, the wise, and we do go into the various meanings of the mighty and the wise. We did go into the meanings. Definitely the heavens and the earth are signs for the believers. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring our attention to the heavens and the earth. So seeing that there are heavens, right, that makes that reminds us of the unseen, because we only know one heaven, one sky. But the heavens that we are aware of are 7 heavens. And to inform this to the people, only those who really believe in the unseen would believe in the 7 heavens. And so that's why are signs for the believers. So those who believe can see signs, can know of the signs. We can't see the 7 heavens, but we are aware of the sign, the various signs, or the various characteristics of the 7 heavens. We don't really know much of the 7 heavens, but we do have some idea of maybe the Arash. Honestly, we don't really know, honestly. But we do believe in the Arash, we do believe in the Qalam, we do believe in the Loh Mahfuz, we do believe in all these things which are supposed to be somewhere in the seven heavens. And here we have the Isra Mi'raj. Mi'raj actually is called the Mi'raj. The Isra is the travel, the night travel, and the Mi'raj is Isra Rasulullah going up to the heavens and meeting the various prophets in the heavens. And so we do believe in all those things. So these are believers. And of course, in the earth, we see signs that make us stronger in our belief of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and of His might and His wisdom. In our creation and in what Allah spreads of animals, there are signs for the people that are certain. So first we move on from believers, right? Once you are a believer, then you have yaqeen, and that's the word, yuqinun. But the first one if you do remember, the verse was mu'minun. And mu'minun is quite different from yuqinun, because in the sense, not that in the meaning, but in the structure in itself, because mu'minun is an ism. So being an ism, it's at all times having that belief. But yuqinun is a verb and continuously having yaqeen. So your yaqeen increases as you look into your own creation and you look into the different types of animals that are spread across the world. So you have greater conviction, greater certainty of the greatness of the might and the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So yaqeen. I continue with the next verse. وَتَصْرِيفِ الرِّيَاحِ وَتَصْرِيفِ الرِّيَاحِ. From the word sarafa. Sarafa can be movement, can be changing of direction. And there are different translations of this word. تَصْرِيفِ الرِّيَاحِ. Now the ta is referring to riyah. Riyah is refers winds, plural. Rauh. Then you have riyah. So riyah is plural for wind. So that takes a singular female attribute. So we have a ta. The ta is a female ta. وَتَصْرِيفِ الرِّيَاحِ. So the word is sarafa. And the dispatching of the winds, actually. So there's an off there. Ayatun. Ayat, we know is plural because there's an alif there. Ayatun is of course rafa, signs. If ayatun with an alif and ta marbuta, then it's a sign. All right. Then liqawmi yaqilun, li surul jar. So qawmin is in its jar state for a people. Yaqilun from the word aqal. Aqal is to understand, to take heed, to take note. Wa tasrifir riyahi ayatul liqawmi yaqilun. All right. Wait, I missed out a certain verse. Sorry. There's another verse that I missed out. So sorry. Sorry. Yes. So that's the first part of the verse. وَخَتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ. Khilaf is changing, alternation. وَخَتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ. And in the alternation of night. The night. Layl is night. All right, so this one we know is mudaf ilayhi, and this one is continuation from the previous verses of Allah's creation, of the alternation of layl. So it's a jar state here, and then we've got layl. Layl is also jar state here because of the mudaf ilayhi of the off structure, and there's an al there. So the al goes to the alternation here. And the alternation of the night, one nahari, and the day, and of the day, and nahar is the day. Of course, it continues with the off, alternation of night and alternation of the day, right? So, and nahar is in its jar state also because it is an off structure. Wama, and what anzalallahi sent down is plural here, is fi'al madi. Allah is the one who sent down. Anzalallahu. Allah is the Rafa here, the one who sends down, anzalallahu minas sama'i, min is surah jar, so sama is in its jar state. Sama is a sky, from the first sky, minas sama'i, mir rizqin, of sustenance, rizqin, of sustenance. Fa'ahya, then he gave life. This is past tense, so I'm putting it as past tense. It's not that, as we know, in Arabic, past tense doesn't really mean the past, because Allah keeps on giving water, giving sustenance and risky, and but the past shows us that it is guaranteed. Granted, for Ahya, then he gave life. So of course, he here is referring to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he gave life by it. The it here would refer to the risky that Allah has sent down, or the earth. The earth. So he gave life to the earth, and the earth is the one that is given life to. So the earth is nasab here. Ba'da mautiha, ba'da is surah jar. So you have mauti in its jar state. After her death, her here, ha here referring to the earth here. All right. So we have وَخَتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ وَمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مِنْ رِزْقٍ فَأَحْيَا بِهِ الْأَرْضَ بَعْدَ مَوْتِهَا. Then we have this one which we have gone through. وَتَصْرِيفِ الرِّيَاحِ آيَاتٌ لِقَوْمِ يَعْقِلُونَ. So this is present, future, and Rafa. So, and in the variation of night and day, and in what Allah sends down of sustenance from the cloud that gives life thereby to the earth after its death, and in the changing of the winds, there are signs for the people who understand. So we look at the translation here, we see that instead of putting in the alternation of night and day, the translator here actually uses the word variation, a change in night and day. And there is a deeper meaning in variation than just in alternation. And then we've got this here, instead of saying the dispatch of the winds, this is the changing of the winds. So there's a lot more to it than just the differences of opinions concerning the movement of the winds and the changing of the winds and the blowing of the winds and what. So this is what we have. So here we talk about people who understand. All right. So we have here وَخَتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ. So we talk, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then brings our attention to the alternation of the day and the night, and alternation, or the as mentioned just now, the variation of the day and night. So the difference in the night and day is a sign, because one follows the other with full regularity. So for us to realize this greatness, the change in time, the change in countries, maybe in Singapore, we don't really see that much change of the hours of night and hours of day. But in Mecca, you do see that also, because in winter, the nights are longer, and in summer, the days are longer. So there is a difference in the night and the day. And it is something for us to ponder over. Those people who are thinking people, right? So that is why at the end of this verse, Allah says these are for thinking people. They do start to think and wonder, why is it the night actually moves, gets longer towards winter, and then it gets shorter towards summer? What causes all this variation? So this is it. That's why in the other translation it calls it variation. When you talk about alternation, it's just like alternate night, day, night, day, night. It doesn't show much variation. And on top of that, there's this regularity. This month, it's going to be like this. In the next month, it's fixed every year, right? In December, the days are like this. Although when we look at it in the Muslim calendar, right? We are doing in Surah Tawbah, very interesting talk of the Muslim calendar. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that the months of the Islamic months have always been there since the creation of the skies and the earth. And we do note that the Islamic calendar actually moves across the solar calendar. And it becomes much more interesting that the Arabs actually, they don't like maybe the Hajj months to be in winter or in summer. in summer, most strawberry is too hot in summer. So most strawberry, they prefer to have it in spring. So it's something cooler and things like that. So what they did is that they actually manipulate the Islamic calendar, and they add on months, like the Chinese in Singapore also. If you are aware that the Chinese also, they follow, supposedly supposed to follow a lunar calendar, but their Chinese New Year is always either January or February. It just moves around there. It doesn't go further than that. But whereas for us, our Ramadan would be across all the way. Right? We can have it in December, we can have it in January, we can have it. It moves. It moves every 33 years. Then it will come back to that. Maybe January again after 33 years. So these people are thinking, it seems that the Arabs, if you all are following my Surah Tawbah, the Surah Tawbah that we are doing right now, the Arabs wants to fix Hajj at a certain month that makes it convenient for them. So what they did, as the Chinese also, they add 1 month. After how many years, they would add one extra ghost month, and they have a ghost month. So they add one extra ghost month. Similarly with the Arabs, they will add one extra Safar, or one extra, other months. They will just add on so that it will stay in spring, around spring area there. So what happens was that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the month that Rasulullah SAW did the Hajj, right, after he conquered Mecca. So that's on the 9th of Zulhijjah. It's the 9th after Hijrah. As mentioned, the Arabs have been changing their months. So that means the Hajj month is not really on the Hajj month. That's what it is. So, but Allah has made it such that the day when Rasulullah SAW did his Hajj, that is as the exact day of the 9th of Zulhijjah. And henceforth from that, the Muslims, Rasulullah SAW has confirmed that it's going to be following the lunar calendar. That means there will be changes in our Ramadan, there will be changes in our Hajj and such. If it's going to be in a hot season, it's going to be a hot season, because Allah, as mentioned in that surah also, the Mufassirin has said that this is the mercies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow it to move through the seasons, right? Hajj and Ramadan through the seasons, and so that people go through different challenges in different months. Fasting in summer is different from fasting in winter and such. All right, so there is a lot of thinking to be done in looking at the changing of night and day, not only the night and day just per se, but in the changing of the hours of night and hours of day. So one is bright and the other is dark. Then over a certain period, the day goes on shortening and the night lengthening gradually till the two become equal in duration. We do that. We do know that in the during the winter solstice, they call it the equinoxes. During the equinoxes, the March equinox, that's 21st of March. We do learn. I mean, we have been learning this in school, right? 21st of March is when the whole world actually will have 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of night. Similarly, on the 21st of September, right? So that's spring and autumn, where a whole world will be having 12 hours of day and 12 hours of night. Then again, the day goes on lengthening and the night shortening till the two again become equal in duration. So that is where they call the variation of night and day. And the variation sounds a bit better than alternation. Alternation, maybe you can look into that also. So these different kinds of variations found in the night and the day, and the great aspects of wisdom that accrue from this, are a clear pointer to the fact that the creator of the sun and the earth and everything on the earth is the all-powerful one. So all this it tells us his power. Of his power, he's able to cause these variations in night and day. Of course, for us, now that we have learned about the moons and the stars, and we learn about the revolution of the earth around the sun, and then we talk about the tilt of the axis, which causes the various seasons. But for people of old, chances of them having some kind of knowledge is always there, especially for those thinking ones who wants to ponder over the various creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the various phenomenon in the environment that Allah has created. And that refers to the great power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in having these various variations in night and day. He is keeping both these spheres under his control. He is all wise, who has established this unalterable system and made his earth a suitable place for the countless species of life, which he has created here in the form of vegetables, animals, and men. The alternation of day and night is a phenomenon that has lost its significance in the minds of most people because of its irregular frequency. So its irregularity has caused people not to be able, not to realize the significance, the greatness of the change in night and day. Especially in Singapore, we don't realize it. We are overseas in the winter. We live in the 4-season countries in the north or south. There will be a lot of thinking down there. However, wonder would fill the heart of anyone who sees the approach of night or the creeping of the day for the first time. Right? If you are imagine yourself, right, not knowing, not seeing Earth, not seeing this phenomenon, living in a dark room for years, you come out of a dark room and just look at the beauty of the sky as night enters and as day emerges. This is really something wondrous. In fact, we are still, sometimes when we go overseas, we want to see the sunset, we want to see the sunrise, and you get to see really beautiful sights, right? So the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. An alert mind and an open heart will always see this great wonder and marvel at it as they see Allah controlling the universe. وَمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مِنْ رِزْقٍ, and whatever Allah sent and what Allah sent from the sky of rizqi. Now, we will see the various inferences. It's very interesting when we look at various tafsirs and how they come about with their conclusion. And the means of subsistence may refer to rain pouring down as people understood in the past. However, yet the term may refer to other things that come from the skies and have similar important roles to play in sustaining life on Earth. The rays that come from the skies provide an example. So you have here, right, an opinion that it is not only water. Many other scholars actually refer to it as water. But the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not put water, there are other times where actually Allah puts, Allah says that Allah sent down water from the sky. But somehow in this particular verse, Allah says, and whatever Allah sent down from the sky of rizqi. So this is rizqi from the sky. Rizqi is a sustenance. And we are aware that we have from the sky not only water that allows for the growth of plants and animals, plants, especially plants, right? And also we have the various rays from the sun. We learn about electromagnetic rays. We learn about the importance of the infrared rays. We learn the importance of the various colors of light from and we do learn that the colors of light actually affect the growth of plants. Later on, we used to learn in the primary school maybe that the sunlight is absorbed by the chlorophyll and that helps the plant to make food, right? And that's sustenance, right? So it's not only water that sustains life on Earth. It is also the rays from the sun. Of course, we've got various rays from the sun, and each one of them have got their own particular use for the animals and the plants on Earth, right? So it's, somehow this opinion actually seems to sound better than the opinion that this is referring to water alone. These rays are actually essential for rain because it is the heat of the sun that causes seawater to evaporate. So he elaborates further the importance of the heat, right, to cause the seawater to evaporate. Rainwater from reservoirs, it allows rivers to flow and springs to gush forth. So then we have فَأَحْيَا بِهِ الْأَرْضَ. Then he caused to come to life. Ahya is to cause to come to life. Root word is haya. The alif there, the a there, actually has a causative effect. Caused by it. It is the rizki that he has sent us. Arda ba'da mautiha, after its death. Right? So the earth is very, as we see, we're not again in Singapore, we don't really see such phenomenon in countries, in other countries, especially in the deserts. When there's a shower, then the plant starts to sprout. So, and of course, after winter also, then you've got the plants sprouting in its dead. The winter is cold and dead. The grounds are also barren, and then it starts to sprout. Then we realize also that life is not only with water. So it doesn't only refers to water, but it also refers to the sun, because the plants need sunlight to make food, and without food, the system would fall, would disintegrate, because plants make food, and that's when the animals receive their food. The animals, the herbivores, take the plants, and the omnivores and the herbivores, and then of course the carnivores consume the omnivores and herbivores, right? So this life there, right, after its death. So here we can refer it to just not only water, but heat and light. So that's after being lifeless, the earth is revived through water, heat, and light. And heat also is heat and light are also critical sustainers, not only for the plants, right, but also for human beings. And if you got a friend who actually went to the doctor, she was feeling very sick. The doctor told her, you don't have enough vitamin D, you should sit in the sun more. We should be walking in the sun for at least 10 minutes a day. Remember, I got a cat, she passed away some time ago, 21 years old. At 21 years old, she passed, 20 years old. But she just loved to suntan herself. Every time the sun coming from the window, and she will just lie down in the sun for a few hours, just to get the sun, the heat of the sun. And maybe that's why she lives long. Not many cats can live under 20 years old. And she was good right until about a week or two just before she passed away. And that's when her system just failed and she died. Anyway, and we need heat, vitamin D. We need heat to keep ourselves warm, and to keep our system moving, and light, and all these things are important in our lives. This is of the beauty of Allah's creation. Life springs out of what seems like nothingness. Secondly, mention is made of rain, the heavenly life, bestowing element regarding the delicacy of its nature and its reviving force is indubitable. You can't debate on that. Right? There's definitely rain, water is important, but water alone, as mentioned, is not the only thing that gives life on earth. We need sun, light, and heat. It is a sign of life, freshness, and beauty. The fact is that water constitutes the main constituent element of many animals, of man, many animals and plants. We are, as human beings, we know that we are made up of 75% water, right? And we can't live without water. So of course, as mentioned, water is critical in the life of the human being. Water and the changing of the winds and the movement of the winds, right? So these are things for us to ponder. The circulation of the winds implies the circulation of the different kinds of winds at different times on different parts of the earth and at different heights, which cause changes of the seasons, right? So for those who think, they realize that the winds are really, there is something amazing about the winds. Sometimes they're strong, sometimes you have typhoon, sometimes you have the keys there, right? Mentioned on different parts of the earth, we have like monsoons. We know monsoons only comes on certain months, and then we've got the as I mentioned, cyclones and typhoons and everything. So those who think, they would actually wonder why these winds actually only come on certain times of the year. Not all the year we have, not all the year, throughout the year we have monsoons, and some of the winds are not as strong, some is slightly stronger. And then of course we've got winds, we have the sea breeze and the land breeze, and then we've got land masses that can be quite cool because of the cooling effect of the winds and things like that. So all these things, we have learned this in our school, right? But we are not brought to think about the creation of these things. yes, we do understand the winds are formed when there's two zones of high pressure and low pressure. And that is where our monsoons come from in the winter. When it's very cold in the north is a region of high pressure. And then when it is warmer in the south, right, the south is a region of low pressure. Right? Then the wind will travel, will flow from a region of high pressure to a region of low pressure. All right, so that's when the winds are formed. That's not the other winds, the other forms of winds and everything. So it allows us to think. So we're coming here. The air flows occasionally in different ways. Sometimes a cool wind blows, and sometimes a hot wind. You've got hot winds also. Sometimes it stops blowing, and sometimes it starts blowing. Sometimes it blows soft, and sometimes strong, and sometimes it assumes the proportions of a storm, typhoon, whatever. Sometimes a dry wind blows, and sometimes a moist wind blows. Sometimes it brings the rain, and sometimes it drives away the clouds. So that's a lot of thing to think about in the movements of the wind. These different kinds of winds do not blow without a purpose, but under a law and a system which testifies that this arrangement is based on perfect wisdom and is serving a great objective. Serving great objectives. Of course, the might of Allah is also coming in here for us to consider the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in allowing the system to come into place, in allowing this change of winds and things like that. And sometimes, we've got our meteorological stations telling us there'll be rain here, but not all the time they are right. Sometimes we check. Nowadays you can check everything you want to go anywhere, we check online, okay, where in part is it going to be raining or not. They say, oh, it's going to be rain, and you went there, it's not raining, right? And so there are reasons for them not coming, and some, they can predict cyclones coming, but sometimes it doesn't come. Sometimes you don't predict it and it's come suddenly. And so disaster occurs in human beings. So these are all of Allah's ways of doing things, of His might and His wisdom in bringing in the winds, right? And of course, there are times where things can change. And that is when the Amar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes in. Which means that if Allah wishes for a thing to change, this whatever we have here is of the standard situations, right? Monsoons, Singapore, the monsoons in Southeast Asia occurs. The monsoons on the eastern part of Southeast Asia occurs somewhere in November. Then the monsoons in Bangladesh occurs somewhere in June. Right? So these are standard times, but not really fixed in timing, but it's still around those times. Now, there's a story of a man who was, I don't know if I told you this story before, but basically it just to show the Amar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that and the powers and mights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His wisdom. There's this man who was, he had a dream, a pious man, he had a dream of that he was told to go to Mecca. So he lives in Egypt. So he went to the coast of Egypt, the coast of the Red Sea, to get a boat to bring him across to Jeddah so that he can go to Mecca. Because he was instructed to do so. So he went all the way down there, down to the coast and the jetty, and he saw a boat down there, and he told the captain, I want to go to Mecca. He said, no, impossible, there's no way you can go to Mecca right now because the wind blows from Mecca to Egypt. There's no way you can go to Mecca because it's a sailing boat at that time. So he says, no, but I've been instructed to do that, so I must go there. So he says, never mind, I'll just sit down, I'll do my dua. So he did his dua, he did Hizib Bahar, he read the Hizib Bahar, a very powerful litany. It's called the Litany of the Sea. So he read that. And then suddenly the wind changed direction. So that is the might of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the Amr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Yasin, إِنَّمَا أَمْرُهُ إِذَا أَرَادَ شَيْئًا أَن يَقُولَ لَهُ كُن فَيَكُنْ. Surely that إِنَّمَا أَمْرُهُ, in His command, right? His command is that He says, kun, be, and it is. So that is where He will change, right? Like for example, when Rasulullah dua for the rain to come, right? There's no cloud at all, as mentioned in the narration. Suddenly the clouds gather and the rain falls. This is of the Amr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where He would actually change what is normal situation. All right, anyway, so this is all of the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And anyway, the captain of the ship was a Christian, and he converted to Islam, he became Muslim after seeing that kind of power from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right. Then it is deeply related with coolness and heat, which go on increasing and decreasing according to the changing conditions and relationships within the earth and the sun. So the wind, of course, the movement of the winds in itself is also dependent on the sun, heating of the land and sea. As we know, we have land breezes in the daytime, and we have sea breezes in the daytime, but land breezes at night. Land breezes at night. Remember, land is hot, sea is cool, so it's sea breeze in the daytime. Yeah, and land breeze at night. So this is also due to pressures. That's slight, small pressures. Anyway, furthermore, it has a deep relation with the seasonal changes and the distribution of the rain. All these facts proclaim that these arrangements have not been made haphazardly by sun-blind nature, nor have the sun and the earth and air and the water and vegetation and animals separate controllers, but inevitably one God alone is the creator of them all. And it is his wisdom that has established the system for a great objective, and it is his power that it is functioning regularly according to a preordained law. All right. So the blowing of the wind has a definite relation to the movement of the earth, the alternation of the day and night, as also to the means of subsistence sent down from the skies. They all cooperate to fulfill Allah's will and how it operates in the universe. All these are signs we see in the universe, but not many understands their message. So this is ayatul liqawmi yaqilun. So Allah said these are signs for people who think. Right? They think, they understand, then they will realize the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the might of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The signs given are good for those who think and ponder. And those who think, they start to make experiments, they come up with formulations, what we learn of our geography, the movement of the winds and the movement of the changes in the seasons, all in our geography classes, in the differences in the vegetation are due to people who think. So you need to think, and then you want to find out more, right, by doing experiments, by going over. Man's mind has a role, one that it should fulfill. So it's fulfilling the role is to think of but here we come around to think of the might and power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we believe, then we increase in our certainty, and then we continue thinking. And yaqilun again is a verb. So this is a process, a continuous process of thinking and realizing the might and wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these signs are for those who understand. Allah moves from those who believe to those who have certainty, and finally those who understand. Understand in the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna fi khalqis samawati wal ard wa ikhtilafil layli wan nahari la ayati li ulil albab. That is 190th verse, 21st verse of Surah Al-Imran, which we are encouraged to recite every morning at the last 10 verses of Surah Al-Imran to remind us of the reality of life and the reality of the powers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna fi khalqis samawati wal ardi wa ikhtilafil layli wan nahari la ayati li ulil albab. Allah says in the creation of the skies, in the skies and the earth, and the alternation of day and night are signs for people of deep understanding. Ulil albab. Ulil albab means foremost in understanding. And ulil is foremost, or possessor of understanding. Albab comes from lub. Lub means the deep-seated understanding in the hearts. So that's ascending from one honorable stage to what is more honorable and higher in grade. So first honorable stage is believing. When you believe, you cannot just stay there. You will move on to having more certainty, right, by looking at it. So first is the creation of the heavens and the skies. Then we talk about the belief there. And then we talk about the certainty in looking at the various creations in yourself and all the animals. And then comes the changes of things. So the changes of things makes you think, right? So you move further, but you use the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I mean, the gift that Allah has given you to go on thinking and to have stronger faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For those who believe, they see signs in the heavens and the earth. For those who are certain, they see signs in their creation and the spreading of animals. And for those who understand, they see signs in the alternation of day and night, life-giving sustenance and movement of wind. We can see the gradation of the various terms that are used by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right, continue. Tilka ayatullahi natluha alayka bilhaq. Now, tilka is dhalika. Dhalika is that. Tilka is supposed to be that for female. But here we talk about the ayahs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and ayahs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would take up a single female entity. Tilka ayatullahi. So those are ayahs of Allah. Here's an off structure there. Ayah 2 is, of course, it's rafa state because it is referred to by the word, by the those. So we use those because ayat is plural. So we translate tilka as those rather than that. Ayatullahi, of course, Allah in the jar state because it is mudaf and off structure there. Natluha, na is we, tilawa, we recite. The ha is them referring to the ayahs. Natluha, alayka, on you, bilhaq, with the truth. Fabi ayyi, fa is then, be with which. Fabi ayyi, bi ayyi is which. Fabi ayyi, then with which speech. Then with which speech. Hadith is speech or narration, Ba'dallah, after Allah, wa ayatihi, and his signs. So ba'da is sort of jar, so Allah goes into jar states, and ayat also is in its jar state. Wa ayatihi yu'minun, they believe. Aman, iman, believe, ya wa nun is fi'il madari in its rafa state. These are the communications of Allah which we recite to you with truth. And in what announcement would they believe after Allah and his communications? Because it changes in speech, announcement, right? Hadith is narration and stories and things. Narrations are basically. Then you've got here, we recite them, and this is ayah, counts as communications. I put this ayah because ayahs covers a lot of things, not only the verses of the Quran, but and they use the word communication because it's the way Allah communicates with you to make you understand his powers and his might, by the sun and by all the various elements of the world. The Quran revealed by Allah highlights these universal signs in a way that inspires believers who have certainty of faith and who use their reason. So those are the ayahs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For you to ponder, for you to have more certainty, for you to believe in the powers and the mights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his wisdom. In this way, it touches hearts and minds and addresses people's natures. The profound link between human nature and the universe means that it only requires some inspiring words, such as the verses of the Quran, for senses to be alerted and made responsive, and for us to be able to realize, to respond to various scenarios, to allow ourselves to start thinking and pondering and to understand the realities of life around us, to learn from the signs, then a willingness to find the truth, believe in reason, and use their rational faculty. Those who are devoid of these attributes remain emotionally attached to their misguidance, propagate their myths, and misinterpret the signs of Allah to justify their fabricated myths. So you need to have a desire, a willingness to find the truth. If you don't have that desire, you will not start thinking. You must believe in reason. Of course, not everything comes with reason. If someone tells us Islam is very logical, yes, in some sense it is logical. It allows us to come around to think about the creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the might of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But there are certain things which are beyond our understanding. For example, talking about the Arash. That's why the surah, the Quran, starts off in Surah second surah, Surah Al-Baqarah. ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين الذين يؤمنون بالغيب ويقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون. So Allah starts off with saying الذين يؤمنون بالغيب, those who believe in the ghaib. And in the ghaib, we can't have much reason. Rational faculty is not possible. So we can't use all of rational faculty in our beliefs. There are certain beliefs which just have to just take it as belief. So we need that. We need to have rational. Yeah, we need to think also. We need to believe. So that's why it goes on believing first, and then to increase in our certainty, and finally to use our intellect, right, to respond to the various changes in the environment, for us to think and get attached more to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So those who are devoid of these attributes, they're not able to think rationally, they don't understand the truth, right? Remain emotionally attached to their misguidance. So they have this strong emotional attachment to their misguidance. And we do see that in the various surahs that we have done, the previous surahs that we have done, how the chiefs of many nations, when the prophets went to, they would use emotional attachment to propagate their beliefs, and also to stop people from accepting the message of the prophets and their myths, and to misinterpret the signs of Allah to justify their fabricated myths. So they have their ways of changing their stories and everything. They use signs of Allah, but not to have a deeper understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Natluha alayka bilhaq. Allah says, we recite them to you. So here we realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, that means Rasulullah is divinely inspired by Allah. So these ayahs of Allah, these communications of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has been recited to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, right? Alayka, on to you. Reciting is different from reading. Reciting is to pass the recitation on without reading. You just recite, you don't read, you recite. On you is, the ka here refers to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the first instant, as Malaikat Jibril brought it down to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we do understand that the ayahs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Quranic verses, do not all the time comes with Malaikat Jibril present, right? In giving the message, like for example in our Jabal Hira, our Ghar Hira, Jabal Nur, and that he came down in person and recited the 5 verses of Surah Iqra to Rasulullah. But at times we do know that he gets inspiration from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Verses are being recited to him, and then it goes into his heart, and then he recites it to others. Anyway, we saw sometimes we have incidences in the Sirah where Sayyidina Aisha radiallahu anhu would see him, in having sweat on a very cold day, and that is when she knows he's receiving a revelation. Sometimes they say that is why, and it's very interesting that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned a verse in the Quran that the revelation from Allah is a very heavy thing indeed. And heavy means it is hard. It is going to be something which you have to think about, something that is strong, and it's not light. It's not to be taken lightly. It's something that you have to take it seriously. And it actually was heavy physically when Rasulullah once, there was in the Sirah that he was on a camel and he was receiving the revelations from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the camel actually lowered down out of the weight of the message. It's a weighty message. You call it a weighty message. Anyway, so it's truth with the truth. And that is the reality of the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The signs which were read to Rasulullah, which are recited to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on to him. When they use the word on to Allah, it becomes a responsibility for him. Not to him, not ilah. Ilah is to him, recited to him, but this is right on him. That means he has to take up that responsibility of transferring, of propagating the message to others. Allah presents his ayahs to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. These are truths none can deny. They contain the truth from the truth. So of course, Al-Haq is one of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is the truth, and this contains the truth from the truth. فَبِأَيِّ حَدِيثٍ بَعْدَ اللَّهِ, then with which conversation, with which narration after Allah? You are given this verse, right? There are enough signs for you to ponder over. It is recited to you, Ya Rasulullah. Then in which hadith after Allah are they going to believe? Anyone who does not believe as a result of contemplating the signs is totally unlikely to believe in some other way. And the one who is not fully alerted by the inspiring verses of the Quran will not be alerted by sound outcries from any other source. Right, so this is from Allah. After Allah is given to you, then which are the speech, which are the narrative, which are the sources are you going to have belief in after what Allah has presented to you? وآياته يؤمنون, and his signs. So after Allah, Allah is the truth and Allah is sent on the truth and he has given enough signs, then which of it, of whatever comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and of his signs of Allah, of ayatihi, you are going to be believers. Now you continue to believe, start to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these people have not believed even after Allah's own arguments have been presented for his existence and his unity. Thus nothing can there be by which they will gain the faith. For Allah's word is a final thing by which a person can attain to this blessing, and the maximum of the rational arguments that could possibly be given to convince someone of an unseen reality have been presented in the divine word. So the words of Allah, alhamdulillah, we have been learning the Quran and learning, going through some of the tafsirs. We do realize it is very profound and very articulately given, and also makes us realize the greatness, the powers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And his arguments and the stories that he recited are really beautifully recited. And also the stories of the prophets are also even to make it even stronger, right, or make it even more effective on the hearts. Allah actually quotes these people, quote. In spite of this, if a person is bent upon denial, he may persist in his denial, for his denial cannot change the reality. Because whatever he does, even he wants to deny the truth is still the truth. You cannot outdo the truth. You cannot denounce the truth. The truth is still the truth, and the truth will prevail. All right, so let's recite and recall. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hamim. Tanzilul kitabi min Allahil azizil hakim. إن في السماوات والأرض لآيات للمؤمنين وفي خلقكم وما يبث من دابة آيات لقوم يوقنون واختلاف الليل والنهار وما أنزل الله من السماء من رزق فأحيا به الأرض بعد موتها وتصريف الرياح آيات لقوم يعقلون تلك آيات الله نتلوها عليك بالحق فبأي حديث بعد الله وآياته يؤمنون. Continue with the next set. Yusirru, sara. And so this root word is sarara. Yusirru, you is a he, and this is mudaf, fi'al mudari in its rafa state. He persists. Wailul likulli affakin athim. Wail is woe. Woe is a curse. It's a great warning. It's a serious warning. Li kulli, for every. Li is for, kulli is every. Affakin athim. Affak is a liar. Athim is sinful. Okay, so of course this is what we call sifah wal mawsuf, and is in Arabic it is always opposite to English. Okay? Afakin athim. Malay and Arabic has the same structure where we have the noun first, and then we have the description. So we have bad boy. We have boy bad, not bad boy. We have good. We have girl good, not good girl. It's Arabic so like that. Woe to every sinful liar. This I put them together so that we can translate it nicely. Wailul likulli affakin athim. So Allah now goes and turns to them. They are sinful, they are liars, right? Allah curses them, right? Those who deny the Quran, those who doesn't want to look at the Quran, those who doesn't want to accept this message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are definite liars, and also they are afak. Right, they are afak is a liar, sinful is athim sinful. Right? Afak because they invent things, they lie by inventing things. and they are liars. They are fakin athim, they are sinful. And once you deny things, you start disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you become sinful. So this verse threatens every habitual liar who frequently indulges in sin. The threat is issued by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is able to bring about the total destruction of any community and whose promises and warnings always come true. Allah has warned them, right? You go and you persist in your ways of creating all kinds of stories about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is lying against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And on top of that, you create all kinds of rulings that are sinful, that denies the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that denies the sovereign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who makes laws. This makes the warning all the more serious and frightening. These cursed people are those who lies in his speech, often swears, who is worthless, commits and utters sinful acts and statements and disbelieves in Allah's ayat. So they are cursed. Wailul. So they are cursed. They are the ones who lie in their speech. They swear to untruths. They are worthless. They commit and utter sinful acts and statements and disbelief in Allah's ayat. Yasma'u ayatillahi. Yasma'u from the word sami', sama'a, sami'a to hear. Ya is he hears. Yes, ma'u. So we have that as mudari and rafa. Ayatillahi, the ayahs of Allah. He hears the ayahs of Allah. So ayat, remember, ayati doesn't mean it is jar all the time. This is nasab. Ayatu is rafa. Ayati can either be nasab or jar. But this is nasab because it is a thing that is being heard. Yasma'u ayatillahi. Then we have jar because that is an off structure, mudaf ilahi structure. Tutla, recited. This is passive. The u and the a that makes it passive. It was recited. Tutla alayhi, on him. So the ayahs takes a ta. The ta is a female, singular female entity as mentioned before. Alayhi, on him. Tutla alayhim. Summa, then yusirru, he persists. We saw that word just now. It's a new word that we are quite unfamiliar with. Mustakbira. So mustakbira, arrogantly. From the word kabir, think yourself big, right? From the kabir, it goes into, so the root word is kabara here. From kabir, it goes into the istar structure, which means seeking greatness. So it's arrogance. Mustakbira, a state of arrogance. He persists in being an arrogant person. So while yusirruna mustakbira, because this is mustakbiran, this is of course nasab. Ka'allam yasma'ha. Ka is like or as, and that as if or like that, not he hears them. Lam, not. Yasma is fi'al mudari in its jazm state because lam is sort of jazm. Yasma'ha, he hears them. As if not he hears them. Fabashirhu, then give him good news. Fa is then bashir is instruction. Fi'il amr, then give good news who to him. Bi'adhabin alim, with a painful punishment. Adhab is punishment, alim is painful. Who hears the communications of Allah recited to him, then persists proudly as though he had not heard them, so announce to him a painful punishment. All right, so Allah describes the sinful liar, because Allah was talking about woe to those, to the sinful liar, to every sinful liar. He listens. So this is further on describing the sinful liar. He listens to the ayah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He hears ayahs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes the word listen and hear. Hear is you hear, but you don't listen. When you listen, you actually pay a bit more attention there. Tutla, recited onto him. Alayhim, recited onto him. He's supposed to take it, but he didn't take it. Yasma'u ayatillahi. tutla alayhi. This refers to the sinful liar. This expresses severity of their crime. If Allah's message has not reached someone and he remains unaware about it, then he may be afforded with a legitimate excuse. Those who out there who never hear the message at all, Allah might have there might be some recourse uh, for maybe not giving them full punishment because they didn't hear. But this person here, he hears the ayahs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being recited to him. But what answer would the wretch give to Allah, to whom the Prophet ﷺ himself would go and vehemently deliver the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So these are people during the times of the Prophet. Of course, it goes on to other people after the time of Rasulullah ﷺ who are given the message, who has been read out the message, right, and denies the message. So they hear the message recited unto them. So they are not unaware of the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ثُمَّ يُصِرُّ مُسْتَكْبِرًا. Then he persists. This is an example of the liar, the sinful liar. And he persists in his arrogance. It's all about arrogance, denounce, not wanting to accept the truth and keeping on to his belief of what he wants to believe. He is against submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is arrogance. ثُمَّ يُصِرُّ مُسْتَكْبِرًا. Although this hateful type of person could be found among the idolaters in Mecca, the same type is seen in every jahiliyyah society, immersed in ignorance, whether in the past, present, or future. So this is the reality of lots of people out there who doesn't want to accept the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala out of arrogance, out of sheer denouncement of the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's lots of things that actually stops people from believing, right? But here Allah has identified arrogance here. Sometimes it's out of fear, sometimes it's out of loyalty to certain groups of people. So we can't really identify whether they are of the arrogant ones or not. Some of them are arrogant, of course, and they will not accept something that comes from in this case with Rasulullah SAW, from an orphan, who's got no position in society. As they put it, why him? He is an orphan. Why not us? We are people, the elites of the society. Many are those, and not many are. Many are those all over the world, including some who are described as Muslims. This is opinions again from the scholars. Many are those all over the world, including some who are described as Muslims, who behave with disdain when they hear Allah's revelations being recited, and who persist in their erring ways as though they have never heard such revelations. They just don't want to accept certain, they might accept certain rulings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But at times, certain things they feel that it's not for them. It's just so unfair, the ruling, so we need to change the ruling a little bit. Maybe just like nowadays we have this some groups of people out there not very happy with women getting 1 share and men getting 2 shares, and they consider that unjust, and they say Allah is just, so we can actually tweak it a little bit, the law, and give it full rights, fair, because things in the previous time were different. Women are not working and not looking after their families, things like that. So they try to justify and use their logic, right, in trying to change the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they hear the verses, but they are not going to accept the verses. They do so because what Allah has revealed is contrary to their desire and will not approve the evil and false practices in which they indulge. They do things which are sinful, and they would not want to. They don't. The verses, the instructions in the Quran actually are against their desires. Ka'allam yasma'ha. Allah says, as if they didn't hear it. They hear it, but they behave as if they don't hear it. There is a marked difference between a person who listens to Allah's revelation sincerely, with an open mind and ponders over them seriously, and the person who listens to them resolve that he would deny them and then persists in the resolve already made without any serious thought. So just can't be bothered, right? I'm not going to listen. Yes, it is there. Yes, I've heard the message, but not for me. Or just avoid even having any connection with the message, or even any thought with the message, as if they didn't hear it. That means they just pass over it and not thinking about it. And the first person does not believe in the revelations immediately, it does not mean that he wants to remain an unbeliever, but because he so it's about that person who there's one group of people who would listen, but at first he hears, but he has not opened up to believe yet. But through there are a few of them like that during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu, right? If you like, for example, Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, it seems that the first time that he heard the verses was when he was in Kaaba, and he was behind the cloth of the Kaaba, actually hiding to listen to the verses that was recited. And the verses was really very, very profound, but somehow he didn't get it. He didn't accept it. Then when he listened to the verse that was recited Surah Taha by his sister, that's when belief strikes him. So these are these people who initially they would not believe, or they had some reservations over the verses that are being recited. But as they ponder further on, they realize that there is a lot of truth in it. Therefore, even if he's taking time to believe, it is just possible that another revelation might enter his heart and he might believe sincerely with full satisfaction. As for the other person, he would never believe in any revelation, whatever, for he has already locked his heart up to every revelation of Allah. He just like the Jews say, our hearts are wrapped up, and we will not accept any new revelation because we have received the revelation from God, and that's it. Full stop. We're not going to think about any other revelation. We're not going to accept any other revelation because we had what Allah has given us. So that's arrogance. In this state, such people generally are characterized by the following three qualities. They are liars, therefore the truth does not appeal to them. They are wrongdoers, therefore it is very hard for them to believe in a teaching or guidance that may impose moral restrictions on them. There's also the realities of the Arab Quraysh, but of course not only attributed to Arab Quraysh, but a lot of people out here also, right, would not do it because it imposed moral restrictions on them. Like during the times of the Arabs, of course, there are rulings on how to treat slaves, how to do businesses, and how to care for orphans. And these were critical things at that time. These are major social reforms that were brought in by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Not in the sense of religion, in the sense of praying to God, praying to Allah, accepting Him, submitting to Him, but more of social reforms in feeding the poor, in being fair in your business dealings, in caring for the less fortunate, in looking after the orphans and things like that, which they are not able to accept because they are so used to doing such evil things. And of course, one of the great evil things that they were doing was to bury the baby girl alive. Those were the things that they do, and they find it difficult to actually accept this religion. This is talking about the Quraysh. During the other prophets' time, also they've got these issues of being told to do things which they are not happy about. So they denounce the message. And the third one, they are involved in conceit that they know everything and that none can teach them anything. So that's where the Jews comes in, where they say, oh, we have known everything, our hearts are wrapped, nothing can come in for us anymore. So therefore, they do not regard as worthy of attention and consideration Allah's revelations that are recited to them. And it is all the same for them whether they listen to them or not. So with these characteristics of theirs, then the only thing you can tell them is that they're going to get a terrible punishment. So Allah says, give them the good news of a terrible, a very painful punishment. This statement describes the punishment such a person will receive, but the word bashir for giving news is only used for giving good news. As in this verse, to bring news of painful punishment, suffering, it thus carries connotations of ridicule. right? Because we don't give, this is not good news, right? So they are so arrogant and give them this news, this supposedly good news for them. So if this person does not listen to the warning, let him receive the news of his suffering in a voice that signals good news. It's a mockery. So they are being mocked at by their attitude against the truth that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Wa idha, wa is and, idha is when. Remember the word idha also has a sense of recall from the word dhikr. The word actually holds the dhikr there. Wa idha alima, he knew, min ayatina, of our signs. Wa idha alima min ayatina shay'an, a thing. Ittakhadna, shay'an, tahada, ittakhada. Tahada is fi'il madi here. Ha, he took it. Sign, so he took them. Actually, the ha is a them. Huzwa, in jest, because we're talking about the ayat. So he took them in jest. He took them in jest. Huzwa, in jest. He took them in jest. So we are referring to the ayahs. Ulaika, those, lahum, for them, adhabun muhin. Adhabun muhin, a humiliating punishment. So this one was adhabun alim. Now we go on to adhabun muhin. So, and when he comes to know of any of our communications, so he takes it for a jest. These it is that shall have a basing chastisement. Ulaika, those, some translation as those, these, for them, right? Adhabul muhin, a terrible punishment. Wa idha alima, and when they get to know, right? They know of our signs, a thing. So they know a little bit of our signs. They took it as a mockery. Ittakhadha huzwa. They find faults with, as we mentioned before, right? As we were going to last surah was Tuhan, right? And we talked about the Zakum, and Abu Jahal was, not, there's this tree, and this tree grows in the in the hellfire, a tree growing in the fire. Can you believe tree grows in fire? So he makes fun of it. So that's what is an example. Lots of other examples, they just made fun of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the verses of the Quran. So when they get to know of a verse, right, they start to make fun. Now, this is very important for the elites to make fun, because they need to bring the masses away from accepting these messages. And so they have to find faults with the message that is brought down to them. Wa idha alima min ayatina shay'an, a thing, one thing they found, they just heard about it, they will take it and they will take it and they will make fun of it. Be the highest at it, not at them after all, because it's a thing, one thing of our sign, a thing. So that means they got from one side of the sign one thing, and so they use it to make fun of it. So the blessed verses make mention of another blameworthy quality of the arrogant and begrudging disbelievers. They not only ignore divine verses, but also react against them through slander and mockery. So the first one just ignored. So because they ignored the messages, they were arrogant against the message. So they had this painful punishment. But now, another group, they took the message and find one thing in the message and they use it to mock the message. If you guys don't know anything from the Quran, he disbelieves in it and takes it as a subject of jest and ridicule. This is a far more serious and grave response. Yet it describes an oft-found situation in every community that lives in a state of ignorance or jahiliyyah. Ignorance means they do not understand. The word jahiliyyah means one who follows their desires and caprice, and out of not knowing God, not knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right. Sorry, I think I'll just change back the meaning here. Is actually it, a thing, because it refers to the it here. Hope you understand where I went wrong. So How many are those, including some Muslims, who ridicule Allah's revelations, mocking them, and those who believe in them, making fun of the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? There are those actually who doesn't believe and end up making fun. For example, when he hears that a particular thing has been mentioned in the Quran, he does not take it in the straightforward meaning, but first puts a crooked meaning on it in order to make it a subject of ridicule and mockery. And after making fun of it, says, these are strange things. One daily hears one of the other funny thing from them. And for example, they say, oh, these are stories of old, when you tell them stories of the prophets. So they just don't want to believe. These are just mere stories. We're not going to take it seriously. That kind of. So making fun of the stories in the Quran. In the Sahih Muslim recorded from Abdullah bin Umar that Rasulullah prohibited traveling with the Quran to enemy lands for fear that the Quran might be desecrated by the enemy. It means made fun of. He does not rest content with mocking any one particular revelation, but mocks all the revelations. So this person who is mocking the Quran will mock everything. They will find faults with everything to justify why they are not believing in the Quran, because it does not make sense where they are concerned, and they can find faults with the verses of the Quran. When Allah's verses came to their knowledge, they make fun of them so that others are not influenced by them. At the time of revelation of the Quran, there existed people who tried to listen to the Quran with an impartial mind and would also get influenced by it. These people would also try to bring these verses in the knowledge of their leaders in order to ask their opinion about them. So basically, are groups of people who listen to the Quran, and they are much affected by the verses of the Quran. So they thought they would want to bring this to the leaders and ask and see what the leaders have to say about it, because the verses did have a profound effect on them. And so they bring it to the leaders. The leaders would immediately realize that they are getting influenced by it. So the leaders are the one that is preventing them from listening, because they have a vested interest, especially economic interest and also social interest, where they want to be in power and in control. And so if they allow these people to listen to the Prophet ﷺ, then the Prophet ﷺ would be the one in control. I mean, they would be obedient to the Prophet ﷺ. So they don't want that to happen. So to counter this effect, they could not convince them through arguments by saying that such and such a verse of the Quran is against sense and reason or against human nature is factually incorrect, because the verses are so profound, they can't find faults with the verses. The only measure they could adopt was to make fun of the Quran so that it is belittled and is not able to influence anyone. So, though this despicable step would only produce a desired effect, yet people have a weak personality would temporarily be deceived. People having a weak. So there are those who are influenced by the talk of their leaders. And that's when we have in the Quran where they would blame their leaders for bringing them to hell. But the leaders would say, you know very well it is true, but you yourself have got your own reasons for not wanting to believe it. It's not us that cause you not to believe it. Yes, we have said it, but you yourself are also sinful people who just find reasons in not to believe it. This trick is adopted by all devils against the truth in every period of time. Ulaika, those, lahum, for them, especially for them, the lahum is brought forward to specify it is especially for them. Adabun muhin, a humiliating punishment. So now it's humiliating punishment. Why? Because they humiliated the Quran. They made fun of the Quran. They find faults with the Quran. They denounce the Quran. So they will have a punishment that is humiliating. Humiliation is a fitting requital for anyone who ridicules Allah's revelations. They showed haughtiness before the truth. Hence, they will face humiliation in the hereafter. This humiliating torment is reserved specifically for the arrogant ones, not for the arrogant ones only. Actually, it is for those who made fun of the Quran. And so those who are arrogant, they don't want to accept it. Right? They have a very painful punishment. These people, they humiliate, they make fun of the Quran, so they will get a humiliating punishment. من ورائهم جهنم ولا يغني عنهم ما كسبوا شيئا. من ورائهم, from behind them. Wara, here, behind them. Wara has a meaning of behind. There's a few meanings of wara. We'll look at it later, but we'll use the word behind for the time being. Jahannam is hell, we know that. Wala and not. Yughni from the word ghani. Ghani means to benefit, to become enriched. So yughni, it avails. Avails covers quite a lot of benefits and such. Anhum on them ma kasabu, what they earned. And ma is what? Kasabu, they earned. And this is earned, not did. Kasab is earned. Means they done it, they done the work, and they earned the sin from the work that they had done. Shay'an, a thing. Wala and not mattahadu, what they took. Past tense here, wow, alif at the end. They min dunillahi, besides Allah, awliya, guardians. So they took guardians. So the guardians is in a sub state here. Min dunillahi. Min duni is sort of jar. So Allah, he becomes jar state. Walahum, and for them, azabun azim, great punishment. Azab, punishment, azim, great. Wala mattakhadhu min dunillahi awliya'a walahum azabun azim. Or Allah says, min waraihim jahannam. Let's look at the word min wara'i. Right, the word wara is used for every such thing as is hidden from man, whether it is before him or behind. When you say before him, is in front of him, right? Behind him, right? So, from, if you can see it as from behind him, behind them, Jahannam, or you can say from in front of them, Jahannam. Therefore, another translation can be they have hell behind them. In this case, in the first case, the meaning would be they are unconscious. So this one is talking, this first translator had it in front of them, not behind them. So he says another translation is behind them. So his translation is there. In the first case, the meaning would be they are unconsciously running on this way and have no idea that there is hell in front of them in which they would fall. In the second case, it would mean they are engaged in this mischief of theirs, thoughtless of the hereafter, and they have no idea that the hell is in pursuit of them. So it is, in this opinion here, in this tafsir here, it is not like saying that the hell is a physical thing, right, that is behind them, but it is talking about a state in which their actions is as if the hell is in front of them and they are running towards hell. That's the first opinion. They are unconsciously running on this way and have no idea there is hell in front of them in which they will fall. So they would actually they are actually running towards hell. It's what it is. They are running towards hell by their actions. All right. So this is the first meaning. And the other meaning is behind them is that they are engaged in all kinds of mischief of theirs, thoughtless of the hereafter, and they have no idea the hell is in pursuit of them. The hell is coming on at them from behind. Quite interesting ways of looking at this state. And the phrase behind them has connotations that are specifically intended, right? So some insist that the meaning is behind, and so it has that idea of engulfing them, coming over them, and attacking them. Since the suffering is behind them, they do not see it and remain oblivious to it. So he's trying to explain that it is coming from behind, so they're not aware of it. So they're not aware of it, so that is why they continue with their behavior. Therefore, they do not try to avoid it, yet it surely will engulf them. Therefore, there is hell behind them, though the hell is before them, and it is in store for them. It may connote that they turn to mundane affairs, ignoring divine retribution. This is the same meaning, the second part, the other tafsir, that they are not aware. They are just involved with worldly stuff, and they ignore the warnings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that they continue doing it and they didn't realize that the hell is coming after them from behind. وَلَا يُغْنِي عَنْهُمْ مَا كَسَبُوا شَيْئًا, and will not benefit them or avail them a thing on them, right? On them, for them, whatever they earned a thing. So whatever they do will not benefit them in the least. وَلَا يُغْنِي عَنْهُمْ مَا كَسَبُوا شَيْئًا. Once they enter it, neither will they illegally acquired treasures and riches, which was the reason for the arrogance and evasion from the truth, be of any avail. They earn a lot, right? They did lots of things, right? They got so much in their hands, but it's not going to help them. Nothing that they might have done or gained is of any use to them. Even if some of these are good, they cannot benefit from them because they have been scattered by the wind like dust. This is useless. That these were not found on a solid basis of faith. Likewise, the possessions will be of no use to them. وَلَا مَتَّخَذُوا مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَوْلِيَاءَ, and not whatever they take besides Allah as guardians. Okay? So this one also have a few meanings. Also, there will be absolutely no such thing as help from their presumed patrons, about whom they assume will be able to intercede with Allah on their behalf and save them from his punishment. Similarly, those who disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is seeking the approval of and appeasing their human masters and leaders. Should remember that these masters and leaders will be of no benefit to them in the hereafter. So here we have two groups of people that are considered as awliya. To them, they took other than Allah. That means that instead of taking Allah as their awliya, they took gods other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which they pray to, right? The idols that they revere and they sanctify, and they hope that these idols would actually intercede with them in the next world. Right. And then again, they have got the leaders, right? The leaders whom they obey to the letter, and they try to appease. So in the next world, the leaders also will not be there to help them. So these are patrons, two groups of patrons, the idols and stuff, or even whatever that they would hope would be there to protect them. Just like Abu Jahal, he used to say that I've got armies, they will protect me, I've got children, they will protect me and things like that. No, nothing that they took other than Allah is there for them. Walahum adhabun azim. So these are people, right, who took other gods than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for them, adhabun azim, they're going to have a terrible, terrible, terrible punishment. Walahum adhabun azim. They paid no heed to divine verses and signs, and God increased their torment. Allah increased their torment. They were arrogant, and divine retribution fell into their share. Torment is quite severe, everlasting, humiliating, and deeply affects the soul. Undoubtedly, committing mortal sins before Allah will lead to severe divine retribution. This torment would not be easy. Would not be easy to bear in any way. It would be a grievous one, and its horrible nature cannot be imagined. So, what was the verse? Yes. These are the people who will these are the people who are sinful people, arrogant people who made fun of the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they have held it behind them, and they are also included among those who take gods other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instead of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So because of all these things, so they are arrogant, they made fun of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever they earn are useless because they are not their earnings are not halal earnings. Their earnings are not out of faith to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they take gods other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and tell them that they have, and for them especially, is a azim, means a very great punishment. Walahum azabun azim. All right, we'll stop here. Allahumma arhamna bil Quran waj'alhu lana imaman wa nuran wa hudan wa rahmah. Allahumma dhakkirna minhu ma nasina wa 'allimna minhu ma jahilna warzuqna tilawatahu آناء الليل وأطراف النهار واجعله لنا حجة يا رب العالمين. اللهم أستودعك ما علمتني فردده إلي وقت حاجاتي إليه فلا تنسينيه يا رب العالمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ربنا انفعنا بما علمتنا، ربي علمنا الذي ينفعنا، ربي فقهنا وفقه أهلنا وقرابات لنا في ديننا مع أهل القدر أنثى وذكر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلى الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.